Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Leadership Now with me, Dan Pontefract, today in the house. Well, quite frankly, he's just known as Electric Bill. We could just mic drop there and we'll finish it off. But we'll do a bio, Bill, and then we'll get into some of my questions for you. Thanks for being here. Bill Williams is on a mission to shock us out of our static routines, known for his unique brand of electrified methodologies for the workplace. Bill's honest, succinct, and enthusiastic approach to leadership has inspired and reshaped countless national and international organizations over the span of 30 years. Whether coaching an individual over Zoom or speaking to rooms of more than 1,000 delegates, Bill's impact is equally felt. His power comes from hearing no and reformulating it as, well, not yet. Bill is the principal and president of the boutique leadership development firm, the B4 Group, and the host and brand ambassador for the Art of Leadership Summit and the Art of Leadership for Women. Bill caters his solution-based strategies to individuals and corporations in the private, public, and the not-for-profit sectors. His latest book is Electric Life, 12 Microsteps to Pay Attention, Be Brilliant, and Go Deep. Electric, Bill, so good to have you here on an electric episode of Leadership Now. Let's start first with a question for you, which is asked by many on occasion when they meet you or they continue to meet you over the years. How do you always have so much energy? Let's just start there with a personal question, Bill.
Oh, well, Dan, thank you so much for having me on this episode. I'm thrilled to be here. How do I always have so much energy? It really came down to sitting back and actually analyzing it, which is something that I'm not typically an individual that would analyze things, especially my own energy level. It is, common for me. This is my everyday life. And it was that distinction that people noticed it. So I really had to sit back and take a look. So the first part is really just about paying attention, which is self-awareness, and realizing that I was distinct and different than other people, and really paying attention to that emotional intelligence. The second part was really being brilliant, which is something I've believed in forever. I believe in your brilliance. I'm here to help you build your best. So brilliance was important to me. And brilliance was about, how do I charge my battery every day and make sure that at the end of the day, I have even more energy than I arrived with, which is one of the goals of the book. And then finally, going deep is how I keep the energy up all day long. It's about making an impact, not only on my team, but actually on the business as well. So that every day I can walk away and I can go win and walk on. So there's a quick overview.
Okay, I love it. Well, you can't spell brilliance without the word Bill, so that goes without saying. So well done. The flip side, though, those people that aren't named Bill G. Williams or Electric Bill, how does not having, energy or perhaps even enough energy in certain situations harm or hinder or create kind of unfavorable situations for you in work and or life?
Well, and Dan, I thank you for that question, but the thing is, it's not about me. It's about them. And that's the difference that I want to make. I really want to be of service, if you will. And so when I do the math, we all only have 24 hours in the day. So whether you're a cubicle warrior, whether you're working in a warehouse, all the way up to the president of a company, we all democratically only get 24 hours in a day. When we pay attention to our doctors, which is something that I'm really doing now as I'm about to turn 60 in a couple of days, 8 hours of sleep is the ultimate goal, 7 to 8 hours sleep a night. How many people are actually getting good sleep? Studies are indicating not that many. Now, the next thing is 8 hours of work. So if you're working virtually, great, you may be able to log in and just do the 8 hours. But if you're working in that warehouse, you can't work from home. You got to commute to get there. You got to do your day. You got to commute home. So we're spending more than 8 hours a day at work. That only leaves 8 hours left to live our lives. And if by the time we finish work, we have no energy left to live our lives, why are we doing what we're doing? So in the book, I just simply wanted to add another perspective because, Dan, I love you, man. And you and I share many, many similar thoughts. But if you and I have the exact same thought, one of us is not necessary. So I wanted to give, it's true though, right? Is that I wanted to give a different perspective for people just simply to consider. I'm not saying I'm right. This is how I've lived my life. This is how I live my electric life. And I want people to amp up their voltage. I want them to have a more exciting and sustained life. I want it to be renewable energy, if you will. So it's not something that you have to go and plug in. You can create it yourself. But for me, a lot of times it's just simply them learning a different perspective. Actually, the microstep there is called practice positivity. And it's pausing a situation, rewinding it. We're also self-absorbed. It's natural. It just is. I love the world the way that I love the world. But when we can actually learn a different perspective, it might not drain our energy so much. So
okay.
I don't know that I answered your question, though. So the quick answer to your question is that, managers are going to sleep every night and worrying about, I don't have enough people to do the work anymore. And how am I going to get this work done? And when we don't pull together with the energy to get it done, that means there's more work for everybody else. So I want people to have the energy to do a great job and live their lives full of electricity.
Which is really a nice segue to one of the things I wanted to touch on with you. And that is kind of where we're at as we record this in sort of the first quarter of 2023. Literally as we record today, it is the 3rd year anniversary of the famous Friday the 13th, 2020, from a pandemic that was emerged from some sort of coronavirus. I think you might have heard of it. I'm asking you, Bill, where are we at from a leader's perspective of having to uphold the energy because they do serve others, i.e. their team and probably other stakeholders and constituents, either in the organization or possibly outside with suppliers, partners, clients, and customers, of course. Is there a distinction, do you see, in kind of in your work between the energy required for said leader, particularly 3 years on from a pandemic, versus maybe what's needed within an individual contributor role itself? Is there, or is it just a baseline that says, no, here's where we start and there are some nuanced differences?
I don't know that there's a distinction in the different energy levels needed. I think, again, as we're all human beings. I've been in human resources most all of my career, over 35 years now. And, when I look at it, we have hierarchical organizational charts. And I like to, there's this great book called Flat Army. You may have heard of it. and I just want to, just bring it all down because we're all just simply human beings. Now, there's another book that the third title in it is Care. What's the title of that book again?
You're too much. Come on now. It's about you, not me.
but the point being is that I think we do care. I think we all care. The problem is we're caring about the wrong thing. And businesses and that hierarchical structure has forced managers to care about results. And they should. They need to get the results, but they need to remember that how they get the results is through their people. And so when we care about the people first, the results will take care of themselves, in my humble opinion.
I've always loved you. That's a perfect answer. It segues really nicely. You've got some zippers in the book itself. They unzip into this beautiful language and lexicon that you're introducing to the reader. One of them is, you refer to it as, quote, the energy to live.
Yeah.
What is that? Because I think it's poetic and it's just 4 short little words, but together it seems to unpack itself into a huge punch.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, the distinction of living versus surviving versus just getting through life. I want you to live your life. I want you to go out and be passionate about doing what you're doing. And I think that's one of the things that I'm noticing more and more is there seems to be less and less passion that I observe in people. And, if you happen to be in a business development role, all you need to be is passionate about your product. And as soon as you're passionate about your product, sales will automatically happen. If you don't give a damn, if you don't care, if you're not passionate about your product, no one is going to buy it. I don't care how great your sales skills are. They're not going to buy it if you're not passionate about the product.
Okay, well, so you're in a reflective moment for a second here. Let me put that into your head. For those that are just listening, if you're wondering and not watching, Bill says he's turning 60. It looks like he's turning 40, by the way. But his 30-plus year career has seen him work at places like Amex and Cogeco and ADP and Franklin Covey. And so my question to you is a little bit more expansive than the comment I just asked you about with the reflection on the pandemic the last 3 years. And that is, based on your kind of body of work from 30-plus years ago and still working, obviously, closely with people in culture, HR teams, and other leaders, What changes have you noticed between maybe where we were as human beings, people, leaders, etc., and our levels of energy, and where we are kind of like these days? Have you seen a discernible difference of pros and cons that we might glean from your experience?
Well, I think and again, the energy is a really hard thing to measure, right? Because what's normal for you, what's normal for me, very different. And, even as we look at our focus on mental health, we're trying to not use the word normal in a comparative state, if you will. And so I think that, before COVID, we had a circumstance and a situation whereby we were working the hours we worked. We had the heck of a commute to deal with, and then we got home and we were exhausted. Then COVID came along, and all of a sudden it was like, all dependent. You may not have had a job at all because, again, the warehouse worker could not go in. Unless you were an essential worker, you were not going in. Grocery stores, pharmacies were the only things that were really open. Mm-hmm. So we were at home. And with that, Dan, I think that, at the very beginning of COVID, I said, not everyone's going to get physically ill. Almost everybody did, but not everybody was going to get physically ill, and certainly to the point of death, although we did lose many people. But I think that everybody was going to suffer from some form of a mental health challenge. Mm-hmm. Whether it's anxiety, stress, whatever. So as soon as we went for that, remember the 2-week shutdown we were going to do? It was just
the longest 2 weeks of my life, Bill.
Exactly. The 2 years later, 3 years later now, in that for that first phase, I think for a while, people just didn't know what to do. I think energy really shifted as well, because you may have had a family or a life partner that you kind of went, oh, now that I spend this much time with you, I don't even like you. I may still love you, but I don't even like you anymore now that I'm spending all this time with you. And so I think energy levels really changed. And that's when people started to sort of perk up and go, what is happening for me? And, if you will, a positive outcome for me of this is that we're beginning, just on the very beginning stages right now, of ending the stigma around mental health. Because we're realizing that, anxiety, depression, stress are all things that we all have to live with, and they definitely impact our energy. And so I think people are now beginning to look for ways to how do they build their own energy. And that's where I hope the book can be of service.
Oh, it's definitely of service. In fact, you highlight a really touching story, kind of a third of the way into the book, I would say, and that's the fact that you were married to a woman for 7 years, got married relatively young, I think 20 and 19, the two of you were, divorced, identified then as publicly as a gay man, visited a therapist in Vancouver whom really provided you with some fundamental advice, and that is, fine isn't a feeling, Bill. And I thought it was just profound. So the question really for you is not necessarily like taking us back, although you can if you want, sort of the personal experience of going through that. But it's really, if fine isn't a feeling, which I agree with, how do feelings then help or hinder, our sense of self as we're waving through both work and life?
Dan, this is a brilliant question. And the reason, again, it's brilliant was that, and connecting it back to the last sort of two questions, if you will, when she asked me how I was, and I said, fine. And she said, but no, Bill, really, how are you? And I'm like, I'm fine. Like, why are you asking me the question again?
Right. Yeah.
And what I had
to, it sounded like it was a perfunctory. I'm fine. Move on.
Well, I wasn't fine. I was numb. I was absolutely numb, like that. The woman that I married was an amazing woman, is an amazing woman. And so it didn't have anything to do with that. It didn't have anything to do with my sexuality either. Our relationship ended, a part of the progressions of life. And quite frankly, we were so mature before we got married. We actually said, what do you think about this? And I said, 10 years from now, we're going to be very different people. We may not be together. Do we still want to go ahead with this?
Oh, wow.
Said, yeah, we do. We do. Like, we were that mature for 19 and 20-year-old kids back in the 80s. But what I'm trying to say now is that I think numb is something that many people have been living. And again, we didn't realize how we were feeling. And so not, Daniel Goleman, I've had the pleasure of working with him in the past. And he shares with us the concepts of emotional intelligence. And as brilliant as all of his work is, for me, with my common people, I just want to bring it down to 3 steps. And step number 1 is, how are you feeling right now? And if you can't go and Google an emotions wheel and see the emotions, in the center of the emotions wheel, fine is not listed there. Fine is not a feeling. Happy, sad, glad, mad, angry. How are you feeling? If you can't tell me that, hell, just give me, is it a thumbs up day or a thumbs down day for you? How are you feeling right now? Thumbs up or thumbs down? That's it. That's all, Dan. That's step 1. Step number 2 is, how much of that are you feeling? So, if okay is the baseline or the center line, and moving up from there, from okay, we'll allow you to use fine. Why not? Because it's a common word that we all use, and hey, Dan, how are you? I'm fine. And you just keep jogging on. So are you okay? Are you fine? Are you good? Are you great? Are you woohoo, running up and down the halls, high-fiving people? If it's a thumbs down day, are you okay? Are you fine? Do you hear the difference between a thumbs up fine and a thumbs down fine? You know whether or not to poke at that or not. Is it bad? Is it brutal? Do you need to go take a kickboxing class right now because your day's been that bad? So again, step 1, thumbs up, thumbs down. Step 2, how much of it? But here's the bigger thing, Dan. When you walk through the door at the end of the day, you've got kids. Maybe if you don't have kids, maybe you just got a fur baby. Those people are excited to see you. And so the bigger question for me is, what's the impact you have on other people when you're feeling that emotion to that degree? And if you can literally cut the tension with a knife, you've just met 2 people that are not very emotionally intelligent. So for fine is not a feeling. It's about, I want to shock you out of your static daily routines and wake up. How are you feeling? This precious life is way too short, and we should be having amazing days, not okay days, not fine days. Here's the other thing I'll say about this, Dan, is that it may sound strange, but I am so grateful for my bad days. And because without my bad days, my good days aren't good days. And without good days, my exceptional days, my amazing days, my incredible days, like today, right now on this call, wouldn't be happening either. So I'm grateful for bad. I'm good with good, and I love exceptional days. Get out of numb. Live your life.
I know that you've always wanted to work for Disney, but maybe you should work for Pixar, because you could the follow-up to some of their movies, you could just be right into some of the emotions and feelings that have to happen in the sequels. Okay. So, Bill, I'm a masochist, first of all, because I'm in the structural editing phase of yet another book that the world doesn't need. And however, that being said, you asked a rather poignant question in your book, and which relates back to just what we were talking about, and that is, what breathes life into you at work? It's sort of this rhetorical question that you then unpack, and it's just brilliant. What breathes life into you at work? And so I wanted to know, what is at the heart of that question ultimately, as you're existentially asking the reader to think about what is really mattering to them?
Yeah. Well, again, I'm very privileged in everything that I've done in my life. However, over and above that, any job that I got, let me take you back to when I was 15 years old. After my paper route, my first job was at McDonald's. And I'll always remember one evening, it was close to close time, and these 2 guys came in. They were probably around 25 and I was 15, so 10 years older, really probably admired, that, these guys were coming in. They ordered quarter pounders. And I decided, even working at McDonald's, this is really just coming back to passion for me, is why did you get into the job you got into? And when you first got hired, you were probably really excited about that job, but over time that begins to drift down. And so I decided with these 2 guys, I was going to make the absolute perfect, like as if it was a TV commercial, quarter pounder. And I did, and they were served. And here's the shock though, Dan. Here's what happened. Here's the payback. These 2 guys went to my manager and they complimented the chef. Wow. That would have been me on making a freaking quarter pounder. One was with and one was without cheese. And so, what breathes life into you is such an important question for me, because I want to know, why did you start doing this job? Every now and then something's going to come along and someone's going to blow your candle out. But as Albert Schweitzer shares with us, at some point in our lives, somebody rekindles that flame. And for that person, we should be grateful. So why did you get into what you're doing? And what's the difference you're making? Why did I get into working at McDonald's? And what was the difference I was making? Somebody actually came to compliment the chef. Are you kidding me? At McDonald's? Like, I will take that. I will take that. And then think about it, whatever else it is that you might be doing with your life. What breathes life into you? Now, the reason that's important, Dan, and really to tie this back, is that the question I ask people all the time is, what does the word inspire mean? And most people cannot answer that question for me, academically, theoretically, whatever way you want to look at it. They can tell me about an inspirational song or a poem or a book or a movie, but they can't define the word inspire. And it simply means to breathe life into people. Inspire is simply in versus out, and spire is breath in Latin, right? So, and even when we're stressed to the absolute max, 4x4 breathing, 4-second breathing in, 4-second holding it, 4-second breath out, 4-second holding it out. That breathing will calm you. It will ground you. If you really want to get fancy, you can alternate the nostril breathing. This is what Hillary Clinton claimed to, sort of helped her get through after Donald Trump won. Alternative nostril breathing cannot cure Donald Trump, but it can make a difference for people. So what breathes life into you? Can you remember that? Can you be inspired by something? What is that? And how will that make a difference for you?
Oh, I love that. I really do. And again, it segues to another, the book is segue after segue with your 12 kind of steps, components, tactics, lovely traits and attributes. But you then advocate that work and life ought to be fun. So what's the relationship between breathing life into you at work, your energy, and our sense of really meaning and fulfillment, Bill?
Wow. The newest generation is really purpose driven. And, I'm a baby boomer. I was born in 63, baby boom up to 65. And, we did it for loyalty, if you will. We were going for a gold watch. Right. But the thing still is, what's the purpose we're here to fulfill? And for me, it really comes back to, in the book, I write about an African greeting, Salbona. Yeah. Which means, I see you, therefore you exist. You are seen and heard. For me, when I was working at Cogeco within the team, one of the initiatives that my team came up with, they created this, was how do we make our customers feel SVI, we called it, which meant for special, valued, and important. And so I want everyone on my team to know that they are special, which means simply that they are unique. Each and every one of us is different. And when we start to treat people exactly the same, we may think that that's fair. It's not, because every one of us is different. My mother, Alice Margaret Foster Williams, bless her, bless her, bless her. She said, Billy, always do unto others as you'd have done unto you. And that's the golden rule. And for 45 years of my life, I believed that was respect. And I didn't realize then that the golden rule is actually the most disrespectful thing we can ever do. Because, Dan, that presumes that you want to be treated the exact same way I want to be treated. And I want to live in Toronto. So why aren't you my neighbor, dude? Where are you living? Yeah. You're the other side of the country, like you choose to live on the West Coast. And so I elevated to the platinum rule. Do unto others as they'd have done to them. But that means that everyone's unique. And so I need to get familiar with those uniquenesses. Special, valued, and important. Valued is just that I appreciate you. And so I challenge, this is leadership now. Leaders, eliminate the word thank you from your vocabulary, which sounds strange, Dan, I'm sure to you. It's like, what do you mean stop thanking people? Yes, stop thanking people. I have worked for managers that literally, you've had Tom Peters. Remember when he had management by walking around? And literally one of my managers had on the 15th of every month, Just walk around and thank everybody. Thanks whoever you are for whatever you do around here. I don't know who you are and I don't know what you do around here, but I just wanted to thank you because it was diarized. I'm supposed to do that. So I challenge leaders to eliminate thank you because it's a complete thought. You can buy a greeting card that says thank you. Replace it with I appreciate. And Dan, I appreciate is not a complete thought. And so I need to add that specificity to it. What is it about you that I appreciate? So special, unique, valued, meaning that, I appreciate you, and important, meaning that you are seen and heard. And as leaders, that's our number one responsibility, is to create a safe space for people to be able to share their ideas. They're brilliant. To challenge my ideas because I'm not right all the time. Challenge somebody else's ideas. Are we really doing what's in the highest for this organization right now? So think about people from that perspective. Are they special? Are they valued? And are they important to you?
Gosh, that's good. I could go on forever with you, but I've got two more lines of questioning I want to get into, and then we'll find out where we can find out more about you, Bill. Sure. The first is, speaking about acronyms, you introduced me to one that I had not heard of before, which was RJF, the resting jerk phase. I was like, this is amazing. And you describe it as, you being on stage and seeing a row, the front row, I suppose, and there's a few people there that had varying degrees of disconcerting looks on their face. I've never heard of it before. So tell me about its significance and how it plays a part in either the electric life or the unelectric life, if you will.
Well, really, it comes back to living that numb lifestyle, if you will. And especially when we're on those Zoom calls right now, again, because so many people still want to work from anywhere. There's a cruise ship, $30,000 for the year. And you can go around the world on a cruise ship working remotely from anywhere in the world. We get on these Zoom calls and we forget to tell our face we're happy. And when that happens, we suffer from resting jerk face, but that's not the point. The point is, Dan, when you have resting jerk face, no disrespect, man, but you come across as unapproachable.
Right. Yeah.
You might look actually angry. If you don't smile, you might actually look angry, which means people are going to actually run away from you rather than approach you. So if we want to make a difference and we want to, really contribute at work, we need to be approachable. Now RJF, resting jerk face, is actually a replacement. I actually heard this term before, and it started off as RBF, which actually stood for resting, not a witch. Replace that with
okay.
And so I wanted it to be gender neutral. As a member of the LGBT plus community, I wanted it to be gender neutral, so everybody can be a jerk. And so it's resting jerk face to me now. Yeah.
Look at you, bridging boundaries abound here. It's just amazing, Bill. Okay. And the last one I wanted to get to comes back to something you brought up earlier, but I want to kind of dig deeper into it because I think it's profound. And it's perhaps now in the top 5 of my favorite mashup words ever. And that's your use of the word positivity. But if you're just listening in on this, it's not positivity as you might suspect. It's positivity spelled PAUSITIVITY. So tell us a bit about that positivity. And again, its importance to aid and abet, our sense of self and how we're, wandering through both work and life.
Well, it comes down to a simple 2-letter word, Dan. And that word was okay. And so what happened is there is this other term that's known as toxic positivity. Yeah. And again, reach out to the customer service departments, reach out to the sales departments and, ask them, hey, how is everything going? It's like, oh, it's amazing. It's great. We're out there. We're just doing amazing things. It's like, yeah, I looked at your numbers and you're not, you're really not. Mm-hmm. So where it came to for me, my father was dying of brain cancer, and my sister and I were caregivers for him for as long as we possibly could, until the very last few days, maybe hours, really more so, of his life. And at one point in time, at this point with his brain cancer, he was spilling and he was slopping and he was making messes of things. And I can smile and sort of laugh about it now. And we say, oh, Dad, it's okay. Dad, it's okay. Don't worry about it, Dad. It's okay. And he finally turned to me and said, Billy, it's not okay. I'm dying. Wow. And I went, oh man, talk about a wake up freaking moment. Like, I mean, ring the bell, set the alarm clock off, like wake up, Bill. And what I realized was that I was looking at it only through my lenses, only through my filters, only through my perspective. And when I practice positivity, and I want people to do this in the workplace, I hope that not everybody goes through that I went through. And well, mind you, you know what? It was a pretty amazing circle of life to be caregiving for the person who caregave me and brought me up in this world, created me.
Wow.
But the point is that oftentimes we walk away from a meeting and we go, how dare they? Who do they think they are? What about, like, what's going on? And we're angry with that other individual. And if we just press the pause button, and I want people to rewind the circumstance of the situation, and I want them to replay it again slowly in their own minds and look at it from that other perspective. Look at it, because I don't know your world. I don't know what happened to you this morning. You don't know what happened to me this morning. Here we are right now, but I don't know your world. And so how can we replay it looking for another perspective, so that rather than walking away angry, taking energy away from us, being depleted, walking away feeling fine, numb at the end of the day, can we look at it from a compassion perspective and maybe think about what's happening in that person's world? It was shortly after George Floyd was murdered in the US, and Tyrone Edwards, who hosts a TV show here in Canada called E-Talk, was on another program altogether. And somebody asked him how he was. And he said, I'm good. And then he realized he wasn't good. And he sort of had a bit of an emotional, a bit of a breakdown on the show. And he realized he was angry. But again, we're stifling our emotions. And when we stifle them, they will come through in other potentially inappropriate ways. And so when you practice positivity, just really look at it from a new perspective and see what you can learn, not only about yourself, but about other human beings, and have that compassion. Don't check up on people. Check in with them. As leaders, I think that's what we need to do. When I ask you, Dan, how are you? It's important to really listen to the answer. And if it's appropriate, to have eye contact. And that's not appropriate for all religions and all different cultural backgrounds, between especially men and women, but to try to really connect with people and check in with them. How are you today? Listen to that answer, rather than we used to ask it and just keep walking down the corridors at work, right? Now it's important that we check in.
Well, after all, Bill, fine is not a feeling, and it's not okay to just be okay. And I'm never going to thank you ever again. I will hug you and provide recognition for a stellar career, and please, more of this. By the way, I wore my most electric shirt I could find for this particular interview with you. And I know we've known each other for 15 years, but I after my paper route, my first job was at Wendy's, the competitor to McDonald's. Yeah, but I wanted to be the best fry guy on the planet. So it's like, I always just wanted the feedback from people that the fries were good at Wendy's. Look at that. We just cosmic connection. And I went west, you went east, but somehow along the way we became friends. Okay, Bill, where can we find more out about you, Electric Life, and all that you do in this great world?
It's pretty simple, Dan. Just simply go to Bill G like George, actually G like Grant, Williams.com, BillGWilliams.com. You'll find everything you need to know there, and sign up for your very own electric bill. And we'll get a newsletter to you just once a month. We won't send you too many bills, but this one is one you might be looking forward to. So BillGWilliams.com is where to track me down.
It's the best electric bill you can ever get, because it's free, people. It's free.
It adds value to you, I hope. Yes. Thanks, Dan.
Can't thank you enough, Bill. Honestly, the recommendations in such a very progressive, passionate, and purposeful way that you've written about in the book, it's exquisite stuff. And I say that as an author of books and reading a lot of books that are pretty crap. Electric Life is one of those that just can seriously help you become a better version of yourself, as you say in the book itself. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, everyone. Another episode of Leadership Now with me, Dan Pontefract. Today, the incredible Electric Bill. See you next time, everyone. Thanks again.